Hey guys, long time no talk, but I was on winter break and I left my laptop in my dorm, which is how I edit my shitty little videos. And I didn't really want to make videos while I was on break. But now that I am in my dormitory and with no job and nothing better to do because my classes haven't started, I'm back. And what better return video to make than to talk about Israel? I'm not going to touch upon too hard about Israel versus Palestine. Rather, I'm going to focus on Zionism and why I disagree with it as an idea. And I myself am ethnically Jewish, so I feel like I have somewhat of an opinion that I could voice that would be semi-valid to discourse type shit. But at the end of the day, I really know nothing, so, you know. Before we start diving into the ins and outs of why I disagree with Zionism, I feel like it is appropriate for me to define Zionism so that we operate under the same understanding of what the fuck I'm trying to explain. Zionism is an idea that Jews are a nation and that they are entitled to their national land, aka Israel in this case. Jews are specifically tied to the nation of Israel, and they are within their genetic birthright for it. They're entitled for it. Israel used to be occupied by Jews, so why not have it be occupied by Jews now? Zionism first started kind of popping up here and there around the 1800s. The first Zionist Congress was held in 1897, and it was held and established by a dude named Theodor Herzl. Theodor Herzl is a dude born in like 1860, and he's considered the father of modern day political Zionism. Now, mind you, Zionism, when it first was an ideology, was not very popular amongst Jews in Europe. Zionism only took off post-World War II. It was due to the atrocities that the Jewish people faced in the Holocaust and just throughout World War II. It was a response to the hatred and the exclusion that they faced. So they felt that maybe it would be better where they're surrounded by one of their own and where they're not constantly persecuted. So that's really the only reason Zionism became very popular. The first Jews to actually arrive on Palestinian land were refugees from Russia who were fleeing the pogroms happening in Russia at the time. Pogroms are these mass incites of violence against Jewish populations that happened within Russia, and so a lot of Jews were fleeing that. Between 1881 to 1914, more than 2.5 million Jews moved out of Russia, but only 115,000 of those 2.5 million actually came to Palestine. I can't exactly quote my sources on this, because I was taking notes on this in a lecture and I forgot to take notes about this part. But I do remember some insane number, like 80% or 90% of Jews that moved to Palestine between 1881 and 1914 ended up leaving. And like, big fucking shocker, right? Because what would happen, realistically, if you place a bunch of Europeans from the 18 to 1900s in the middle of the Middle East, surrounded by Middle Eastern individuals? They're gonna think that they're surrounded by filth. This is a stupid opinion, of course. They weren't surrounded by filth. They were simply surrounded by a culture that was not Western. But it was a bunch of Europeans from the 1900s. So, you know, take it up with them. So yeah, most European Jews didn't actually give a fuck about Israel or to occupy Israeli territory. And there's actually a really good reason for that. That reason being that the Jews are actually an ethnic diaspora. Being Jewish does not inherently negate your right to claim any other ethnicity, if that makes sense. I'm ethnically Jewish. I have little to nothing in common with a Jew that's, say, from Israel. Like, a Mizrahi Jew and me have little to nothing in common, aside from the fact that we're both Jewish. That doesn't make me any less Jewish than a Mizrahi Jew, but we're not very alike. There are Jews in basically every single race and ethnicity. The Jews have not been allocated to a single piece of land for so long that allocating them to Israel right now just doesn't make that much sense. True native-born Israelite Jews are a rarity. They're the minority of Jewish people. Most Jews in Israel right now are Ashkenazi. And then there's the comments, oh, but Israel, Israel was there first. You know when Israel was established? 900 BCE. It fell apart, I think, around 400 BCE. Around there, I might be mistaken. It fell apart before Common Era. Who gives a fuck what kind of people lived on what kind of land in 400 BCE, brother? Damn, I'm sure my great-grandpappy 20 fucking billion times removed really had a bad time, I guess. Sucked for him. How the fuck does that affect me? But you know who have been on Israeli land for the past however long, and during the entirety of Common Era? You do the math. Sure, the Jews had an emotional connection to Israel, and Israel is heavily ingrained in, Jewish scripture and whatnot. But the Jews haven't had an ethnic attachment or a real soulful to the claim of Israel in a long time. There are people and cultures within Palestine that have been there for longer than the Kingdom of Israel existed. I feel like that too is saying something. Not to mention that modern-day Israel was quite literally created as a colonialist ploy by Britain. Before Zionism was even something that took off in slight popularity amongst the Jews, Britain made the Balfour Declaration, which endorsed the creation of a Jewish state in Israel, and that was made in 1917. You're gonna have to trust me on this because I can't find a source for this, and I'm using my memory, and I don't have a script. There was a Zionist thinker around the 1920s to 30s that said something along the lines of a Zionist's greatest ally is the Nazi because they both have the same end goal, which is to drive Jews out of Germany. I don't know, seems a little bit sus. That said that might have been Chaim Weizmann, but I'm not sure. I could be wrong. Point being, Israel was founded on iffy grounds, and the only reason it took such great popularity within the Jewish community is due to World War II, and the fact that anti-Semitism is still somehow present in the modern day. The main reason a lot of Jews in the modern day, especially young Jews, and even those that aren't religious, stand behind Israel is because they know the kind of treatment that they face in normal society, and they kind of hope to see their kind win. It's a simple case of misplaced pride within the Jewish identity. I am proud to be Jewish, but I am not, and I will never be Israeli. Jordis, out.